to this School of Music, Production, and Sound Design for Visual Media. Did I get that title correct? Your school, everybody, is putting on a fabulous, really, panel discussion for all of you, and we thank you for coming. I'm Jan Yanahiro, and I'm the director of the School of Communications and Media Technologies. I'm delighted to be here because Brad Hughes, your director, Brad, give a wave. Brad Hughes, everybody. He and I started together 10 years ago here at this university, and with Brad is the associate director, and it's Steve Romanko who put this whole thing on. Steve, give a wave, Steve. Thank you all. And I love the title about this. I mean, I sort of made up my own title. I said, Women Making Waves. That'd be .WAVS. And I said, yes, waves, because women are making waves, especially in sound design and audio. And we have 5 fabulous women for you to meet tonight. And here's how we're going to do it. We have clips of all the work that they've done, well, most of the work they've done. So we're going to show you the work they've done, and then we're going to introduce each one, and you are going to give them thunderous applause as they come out. And they're all going to be here, and when we get all 5 of them out, you'll see their work before, then we're going to do some questions and answers. And because I'm a broadcaster, I have some questions to ask, and then we're going to open it up for you to ask questions right here. And remember, this is all being streamed live, so hi everybody watching us on the live stream. Thank you for joining us. So that's the event tonight. So, rocking and rolling, here we go. The first person we'd like you to meet is Laura Hirschberg. She is a re-recording mixer. She's got so many credits, and I love this. It includes an Academy Award. Yes, Academy Award. You give it up. Give it up. Includes an Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing on Inception. And yes, I mean, that was a big movie. She's worked on so many big movies. How about this? Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. How about this? Galaxy Quest. I mean, come on. And then she's also been nominated for an Emmy as a re-recording mixer on HBO's The Celluloid Closet. So, take a look at her work.
This isn't gonna work. Wake him up.
That. Now you know why she won the Academy Award. Laura Hirschberg. Round of applause, please. Woohoo! So thank you, Laura, for joining us. Our next panelist is Danielle Dupree, and she is a re-recording mixer. And listen to the work she's done on these films: Ant-Man, one of my faves, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, you can say that louder, louder, louder. Solo, the Star Wars story. Thor, Despicable Me. I mean, those are some big movies. So, here's a clip of her work.
What happened to DJ Sixpack?
His VR startup got bought by Google, actually.
And all of a sudden, the guy doesn't know us anymore.
But we do have an open seat in the tour van now.
I am in. I'm gonna go drop the mic on the agency right now. Bob, I don't know what you're doing here, but I have some news for you.
I already know. Maggie, she quit. She took an offer from Khan and Partners.
Sanjay Khan is the devil!
We do not work on the same projects. That is your rule.
I know, but I'm changing it. I really need your help. Let me just suckle on your breasts and you call me a good boy.
Out of milk today.
You are not breaking up with me through a car window. You are not breaking up with me.
Like a man!
We've got to find you a team and put some meat on this pitch.
Well, we hope we are the answer to your prayers.
Hey guys, can we check in real quick?
You promised to take care of our clients. Cross your heart and hope to die.
I know, I tried.
You tried.
They didn't like the work.
They hated the work.
You are inside of your brand right now. Isn't that amazing?
I quit. You can't quit. You are this organization's creative center. Without you, those desks may as well be gravestones.
I had a gig.
Well, we both love that whole folk,
Country,
rap,
electronic.
rock thing you do.
Thank you.
Knock, knock. They all cried. Diabolic, what a great big liar. Southern was the skin, hella brash and inspired. Take a Williams, make it yours, and then call you sire.
Now get up. This is your day of reckoning.
Let me just get my pants.
Well, if you need to relax, then fuck you.
Change is coming like a freight train in the night. Choo-choo, trick bitch.
Guys, you are in luck. I'm not gonna fire you. Probably still gonna fire you.
Baby Jesus. Well, sort of all Jesuses.
All right. Whoa. Please welcome Danielle Dupree, everybody. That's some great work with some great stars. Thank you, Danielle, for joining us. All right, next up, Bonnie Wild. She is a re-recording mixer. You're going to meet her, and you're going to hear, you're thinking, well, where is that accent coming from? So she's British, yes, but we love her. She's a sound designer and re-recording mixer, and she's, guess what, second generation, meaning her father was also in audio, and she says that she's always remembered her life being on the dub stage. She spent, obviously, summers in her father's studio. Some of the work she's worked on, Star Wars, The Last Jedi, Jurassic World, Gone Girl, remember that movie? And Captain Marvel. So take a look at some of her work.
Rose, you got 3 right behind you!
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
All fighters!
All right. Please welcome Bonnie Wild, everybody. Bonnie Wild, take a seat. So our next guest panelist, Tanvi Phadke. She's a sound designer, and give it up for Tanvi because she is a graduate of this university. Yes, in your department. So she's a recent grad, and she's done some award-winning work, live action and animation for Tribeca, Sundance, Netflix, PBS, and The New Yorker. She's currently an audio producer at Pandora. So take a look at some of her work.
Hola, my buddy and I are here to demonstrate the delicious taste of Cheetos Flaming Hot Snacks. And I say we because when I take a bite, he'll have to do all the talking. Here we go.
So tasty. He meant to say, it's got the cheese and the crunch with the tasty hot twist.
I went to Iraq and I came back a completely different person. You start thinking about the firefights you've been in, the dead bodies you've seen. Excuse me. I've been on just about every drug on the market. I figured I'd be okay with dying. Surfing, that was the biggest thing on my bucket list. I was gonna go surfing, go home, and commit suicide. When I caught that wave, it wasn't death and destruction and hell. The ocean is the one place I can go to for peace.
I started Operation Surf to take a group of veterans surfing. It became clear to me what my purpose was.
It's rough, okay? Don't give up. No.
All right. Please welcome Tanvi Badki to the stage, everybody. Great work. And our final panelist is Gwendolyn Yates-Whittle. She's a supervising sound editor. She's a two-time Academy Award nominated sound editor. She's worked on, get this, more than 120 films, including Captain Marvel, Tron Legacy, Titanic, Jurassic World. She's won 5 Golden Reel Awards from the Motion Picture Sound Editors, including in many awards, including 1998 Saving Private Ryan. So take a look at some of her work.
Hold on, man, you can't make that! Made it.
Ancora!
They're turning around.
Not by choice. Their vehicles aren't designed to go off-grid. They'll malfunction on this terrain.
What about us?
Obviously not.
Where are you taking me?
Patience, Sam Flynn. All your questions will be answered soon.
All right. Please welcome to the stage our final panelist, Gwendolyn Yates-Whittle. All right, here we go. Wild applause for all 5 fabulous women. Woo! Major talent on stage right now. So I'm going to start with the first question. Of course, goes to Laura Hirschberg. I mean, she is an Academy Award winner. First woman in sound to win that award. Oh my, come on everybody. Woo! Thank you, Danielle, thank you. And I think you noticed that, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio was in that movie. So I'm just gonna say first, when you were working on that film, Inception, what were the challenges and did you ever think, yes, Oscar is coming? Laura.
Well, there were lots of challenges. It's a very big movie with lots of intricate scenes. There's a lot of sound that's required to sort of tell the story and to sell the whole concept of the time shifting in different layers of the, you all have seen this movie? Yeah? Okay,
so the clip. Yeah. The clip was astonishing.
Yeah. So it goes through different layers of dreaming, and as you go down into the deeper layers, the sound is also affected. So we had to kind of make a language that would sell that idea, and it goes on for a long time. So there was a lot to do. And I guess, you know, in terms of it being a movie that would be very popular. I was kind of surprised because it is a little bit of a esoteric movie. It's kind of heady in a way. It's not your typical popcorn movie, but it did really well. So
yeah, and especially when he falls back in the water, and you've got to do all that sound effects. I mean, that must have been challenging.
Right. Well, the trick there was to tie in the fact that in one level he's falling backwards into the water, and in the other level the water is coming through the window. So a lot of that we had to just kind of figure out editorially how those things could connect, so that logically you would understand that. Because if it's just a cut from a guy to the bathroom to the guy with the water, bursting in through the walls, you wouldn't necessarily make the connection that in one place he's hearing something that he's seeing in another place.
Well, great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Danielle, thank you for saying that she was the first woman to win that award. I mean, to win the Oscar.
I say it to myself pretty much every day, so it's
okay.
just easy to, it just slips off the tongue.
Yes. So Danielle, to you now. I mean, you worked in some fabulous movies, and we saw some of the clips. The most challenging one you had to work on was, and why?
That's a good question. So unlike Laura and Gwen, I'm relatively new to this industry and relatively new to Skywalker. I've been there for about 6 years. And my trajectory is kind of now moving from some of the more technical support-related roles into being a full-time mixer. So I haven't had the major challenges of working with incredible directors yet, or really high-budget, very technical, effects-heavy films, but...
you will.
Yes.
Future is bright.
But the clip that you did see, I thought that was pretty relevant because it is a low-budget TV series shot in the Bay Area through people that we met at a San Francisco film mixer, and it was a really kind of like a mom-and-pop grassroots thing. That was really challenging because the less money you have, the less time and the less resources you have to rely on it. And that was a full series that I not only mixed myself but also edited myself. And so that was challenging, mostly because you have people that you really love collaborating with who are incredibly passionate about what they're doing, but just don't have a lot of the resources that we're used to seeing at Skywalker. So it's a lot of sweat and tears and more tears and and not so much sleep. But those are some of the more rewarding experiences. From a technical standpoint, when I was a little bit newer to Skywalker, I worked on a film in a support role with Laura called Money Monster. I think that was a really rewarding one, mostly because of some of the technical stuff that we were able to pull off.
She saved our butt.
We basically created a dub stage out of thin air that didn't exist before, and with consoles that we had never used before. So that was really challenging as well, but from an entirely different angle.
Okay. So Bonnie, you are a legacy in sound because your dad was in the whole business. So it's kind of in your DNA. You got to work in some pretty monster movies. So what was the most challenging movie, and which one did you enjoy most? Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I'm kind of similar to Danielle. My path has been kind of like long, and it's kind of gone like this because obviously I've changed continent.
It doesn't just translate with you?
No, it's a different accent. So I've been at Skywalker about the same amount of time, about 6 years, and now my role is like effects editor and mixer. And everything has its different kind of challenges, but probably actually it was Star Wars, like the movie. I worked solidly for quite a long time on the TV series, the Star Wars Rebels, so I was kind of in the Star Wars family, but you know, you're kind of like a lone ranger doing that. I cut everything and I mix everything and I deal with the client and print master everything, and everything's kind of, you know, like a closed thing. And the movie is a whole different kind of thing. The scale is much bigger, and when you're dealing with just like the property of Star Wars, your hands are tied in a lot of different places because you're dealing with like legacy and you're dealing with internet fans who are going to know when you've put the wrong thing in somewhere. And actually, the clip.
Technically, that's not what it sounds like.
It is. It is now. Actually, the clip that you saw this is super nerdy, but it's why I like my job. The clip you saw when we cut into the TIE fighter cockpit, and we've got the that actually we kind of pulled out of A New Hope. We like yanked it out and cleaned it up. We're like, I'm putting Vader's target system in there, and put that in, and that is strangely satisfying.
Oh, now we know a secret. And ladies, we'd love for you to spill more secrets too, so feel free to spill more secrets.
If you couldn't tell, Bonnie came over here from England with the sole purpose of getting a job at Skywalker and working on a Star Wars film. In under 6 years, she accomplished all of those things. Boom, boom, boom.
How about that? Way to go, way to go. And just point of information. How long did you work on that sound for that movie? I mean, it's not like a month. Tell us how long.
That movie was a pretty long, generous schedule, and when you're actually effects editing, also this movie is long. It's like 2 hours 40. I was on that movie from January through August, so it was a really long time.
Every day.
Yeah, every 10 hours a day, every day, and so yeah, and then some. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. All right, Tanvi, to you, graduate of your fellow students right here. Yes. And you worked on some pretty cool films, the Netflix films we saw, and at Sundance. I mean, for so far in your young career, of what we saw, what's been the best that you've worked on?
That would be the Netflix film, because that was a double whammy for me. It actually started with just being a documentary short, and it was luckily it was from a director who was shortlisted for an Oscar last year, and I just jumped at that opportunity when I was asked, and I was doing free work at that point, and
did you hear that? Free work? That's what you have to do sometimes to start out. Thank you, Tanvi, for saying that.
Free work does pay wonders. I mean, right here. So I'm really happy I took that choice, and not once but twice, because the first time I did it won at Tribeca, and then Netflix bought it, and then I did the second version of it. That was probably the greatest. I felt like to be asked not once but 2 times to do it. Yeah.
So you know your work is really good then.
I hope to think so.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a third. Free work led to second, and maybe the third.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Okay, Gwendolyn Yates Widow, supervising sound.
Just take Gwen.
Gwen. Okay. Supervising sound editor. I am amazed. I said to the audience earlier that you have worked on more than 120
I have a lot
films.
of gray hair.
Can you tell us maybe your most favorite film? Is that fair to ask? Yes, I'm going to ask it.
It's not fair at all.
Okay. I'm going to ask it, and tell us why.
I can't answer that film. I can't answer that question. That means I have to remember all of them. Yeah. That means it's like, and plus a lot of times the experience of the film is more important than the actual film itself. So I can have a favorite experience, but not necessarily a favorite film. But so I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. So most challenging film then? I mean, you've got Jurassic World, Captain Marvel. We saw Tron Legacy up there. Titanic. Whoa.
Avatar. Avatar was challenging. Titanic was challenging. There's a common theme to those films that I think you guys all know what that is. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom was challenging because we did it in the ranch in London, and the directors were from Spain, so that was kind of an international thing. Every film's got its challenges. Captain Marvel's got its challenges too. I can't answer that question either.
It's okay. It's okay, Gwen. 120 films. I say, wow. You know, good on you. So let me go back to, you know, I think some of the people here might be asking, well, how did you ever get into this crazy, fabulous, intoxicating business of sound and audio? And Laura, I'm going to start with you. Did you just wake up one day and say, that's the business I'm going to go into?
No.
So tell us, when did the revelation happen for you?
So I went to film school in New York. I was going to be a director, and I got there. I was going to be a director or writer. And pretty soon I realized I didn't like actors so much. I mean, they're nice people. I enjoy what they do, but I just didn't have I couldn't really communicate very well with them. So I thought maybe I shouldn't be a director because I should probably like actors if I'm going to be a director. But I was also interested in music. I was a musician, and I really liked gear, equipment. So I sort of triangulated my interests in storytelling and equipment and music, and kind of found that sound fit into all of those interests for me. And when I was at film school, I didn't even know my particular job existed. I mean, you know, this is kind of esoteric work that we do. So it wasn't until years later that I kind of thought, oh, that's my career right there. But I kind of wandered around. I did stuff for, I did just audio-only stuff. I did stuff for artists. I worked in production on film. So I tried a bunch of different jobs before I came to my job.
And you said you're a musician. So what instruments? Because I think, well, we know Brad plays the sax. So,
really?
Oh, did I just spill the beans? No, I think you know he plays the sax.
I was a flute player. I studied classical music, and that was one of my original things I was potentially going to do. But the thing that I like about my job now is that, you know, at the point when you're doing the mix for the film, it's the last thing that happens pretty much in the process of making the movie. So I'm working with the director, I'm working with the picture editor, I'm working with the composer, like very key creative people. It's different, you know, when you're on set, there's like 100 people. Somebody said once that, you know, a movie is kind of like a dinosaur. It starts really small at the beginning, and then it gets really big in the middle when all those people are working on it, and then at the end, it's really small again. Do you like that? Yeah. I don't know. And maybe it was me. I don't know. I was maybe explaining to my kid or something. But it's true that at the very end of the filmmaking process, it's just a handful of people who are kind of finishing the movie in a way, at least in the, you know, when we're putting it all together. So I really like that because it's a very hands-on creative. You're involved with the people who are really making the movie, and you're kind of contributing a lot to it.
Great. And flute player. So Danielle, any instrument and for you that you play? We'll spill the beans.
No longer, but I grew up playing everything under the sun, first with piano, then guitar, and I had a really good music teacher that after I got tired of trumpet, so cool, he gave me everything else to play. And so that's kind of how I got my start in this industry, was through music, and I thought, when I realized I wasn't good enough to be a performance major, I quit, and I also wanted to be cool in high school, and I didn't think band was going to help me. But it turns out band was not my only problem. So so that was just, I should have just stuck with trumpet. And then, so I don't play anymore. I'm a little too busy, but
you worked in the music industry.
I did work in the music industry. After college, I went to USC. I did the recording arts and music technology track, and then after college I worked at Henson Studios as a recording engineer. They used to be the old A&M.
And Henson, we're talking Sesame Street, Henson Studios?
Yes, owned by Jim Henson, but it was still fully functioning as A&M Records. It was just on the Henson lot. So I worked with a lot of big artists, and realized that music industry, as fun and exciting as it was to be 20 and 21 and working in a recording studio, I liked things like health insurance and a 401k, so I came up here.
Skywalker,
yes, and it worked out. This is such a better. Yeah. I'm so happy with it. Yeah.
You work in Marin, you know. Come on, it's nice
it's
up
hard
there. So Bonnie, I mean, it's sort of unfair to say when when did you decide to go into the music biz? Because you were born into the music biz. So tell us about that. And I saw you nodding your head when we were talking about instruments that people play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, my dad was, he was a re-recording mixer in England. He worked in TV studios for pretty much most of his life. He started in music studios as well. But actually, I was thoroughly discouraged from following that path. Because he, you know, he lost his job like several times during growing up. TV is a kind of a different, it's kind of a different beast, and in England you're kind of, you know, you're dealing with different people buying studios and things like that. But he loved his job. He loved it, and I would go and hang out with him in the studios. I was a runner there one summer and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. But my mum and dad definitely wanted me to do something else, so I studied music, which is like a way more stable career. That's definitely better. And yeah, I studied music and recording. I did music tech and stuff like that. But I didn't really think ever, oh yeah, I'm going to be a session musician or you know, work in a music studio. I'd been to a few music studios and really not thought it was going to be like the place where I wanted to work. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of how I did it. Started as a runner. It was a different, you know, it's kind of different in England, and it was, you know, considerably a long time ago. And there were nice runner positions where, like, you make tea, a lot of tea, run tapes around and stuff like that. It's good times.
You got to start somewhere, and you know, we had free right here next to you, and you started as a runner, so that's what it takes sometimes.
It's still free. It's still free.
It's still free. Okay. Tanvi, what about you? Did you say, all right, I'm going to go to the music department, I'm going to study? When did you decide this is for me, music and audio and sound?
Oh, my story was kind of weird and rash. It was mine. I mean, I'm originally from Mumbai, and I worked there in the advertising agent ad world for about 5 years as a copywriter. And you know, part of my job was to go to, when my ad would go through and the client would buy it, if it was a TV or radio ad, I'd have to go to the studio and supervise it and see that, you know, it was executed just the way I had written it. And you know, the first voiceover session I saw, and I was just taken aback, and I was like, I can't believe this guy is making these noises with just by using his mouth, and I didn't even know he existed. And yeah, the audio engineer who was sitting there, I'm like, I can't believe this guy's using just a computer to manipulate that guy's voice. So, you know, as it went to year 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, by the 5th year, I hated my job, and I started liking the audio engineer's job. So I said, okay, it's time for me to get out of here and go pursue this thing that I've just found out about. So I quit my job, and I said, okay, I'm going to go back to school and learn all the basics. So I came here, and I came to this school. I said, I'm going to learn whatever I can about audio in the short amount of time that I have. And that's how I got my first few months. I'm only a year old in the industry. That's it.
Wow. I mean, so you leap of faith, as we say.
Yeah, it was a risk. It was a rash risk, but it paid out really, really well for me.
Yeah, and we're glad you're a graduate, and way to go. Oh, so Gwen, what about you? You're sort of a veteran, 120 films. When did it hit you that this is the industry for you?
I did not think about coming into the film business. My dad worked in advertising, so he always really loved his job. So it was sort of in the back of my mind growing up that he did this really cool thing. But you never do what your parents want you to do. So I was pre-vet, I was international relations, I was German major. I don't play an instrument. I went to 4 universities in 4 years. I tried everything. And on a total whim, I moved across the country with my sister, and I got a job in a frame shop. This is a long time ago. You could actually live on working in a frame shop. And back then, it's pre-computer stuff. I got the Film Arts Foundation thing, and there was a low-budget feature being shot, so I was a free, unpaid PA, And I overheard that they needed a picture assistant, and I went to NYU. That's where I graduated from. I can do that. I didn't know anything, but they hired me because I worked for nothing. So I was a picture assistant first.
Free, the word free again comes into play.
Yeah. So I was a picture assistant, and up in Northern California, there's some picture work, but mostly it's sound. So if I wanted to keep living here, I did sound. So the first job I got at the ranch was working on Willow. I was an assistant on Willow. That was 30 years ago, so long time. But it just literally is just kind of, oh, look, I'll try that. Oh, I'll try that. Oh, no, let me try that. Oh, this is kind of cool. I think I'll stick with this. Oh, I can kind of do this. Oh, yeah, all right, I'll stay. So there was no grand plan. There was no driving, I need to do this. I really like it. I'll keep doing it.
Okay. And we're glad.
Yeah.
So you found your passion.
Yeah.
You found what spoke to you. I don't think you noticed, maybe you have, but there are 5 fabulous women up here. So my question is, how tough is this for women in the business? Laura, let's start with you.
Well, that's an interesting question because people ask it a lot, and sometimes they say, well, did you ever not get a job because you're female, or did you whatever? I don't know. I only know my experience, and so I don't know what other people have been thinking about me or not thinking about me. When I started, there were maybe, 2 or 3 women who did my job, and that was about 30 years ago. And again, my job's a little esoteric, so there's probably only about 100 people who do my job at the level of feature films. And today, there's probably only about 7 women who do it at that level. So it really hasn't changed very much. And part of it is, I think, there's certain careers in filmmaking that people look at those people as if they are, it's like an airplane pilot, it's very technical, it's very high stress, so we got to get some big guy in there, and that makes sense. You sort of cast it with a person who will instill some kind of weird confidence. I don't know, but so I think a lot of women don't necessarily try to go into these careers because they don't see other women in the careers. And one of the great things about having this panel, I think, is that you guys can see we're just like you, and these jobs are available to anybody who wants them, and it's not like you can't have the job you want. But there is that feeling sometimes. It's sort of like if you walk past a room and look in and you're female and everybody in the room is male, you wouldn't necessarily walk into that room. You'd be like, I'm not going to be comfortable there. I'll go someplace else. And it's kind of the same truth about certain jobs. You just don't see a lot of women doing them, so you kind of don't do them yourself. So I don't think it's necessarily harder. It's just there's less females around. But every job that I've had where we've had some sort of parity of more women on the crew, or just more diversity in the crew, it's been the best experience, because I think the thing about diversity is that everything is better for everybody when everybody is involved, and that's really true. Everybody enjoys the experience more when there's more perspectives, when there's more different types of people involved. And if it's just kind of monochromatic and homogenous in some way, it's not a very fun experience.
So thank you for being involved. Danielle, the same question to you. Have you felt that there's discrimination against women? Tell us how you feel about, sometimes being the only woman on the crew.
Sure, which does happen quite a bit, even today, and I kind of feel a little guilty because my experience probably isn't anywhere near somebody who started 30 years ago. I think things have changed quite a bit. But there is definitely a unique set of challenges that I think you have to be not only aware of, but also constantly, I guess, gauging your mindset and your confidence level and your ability to start fresh the next day. I don't know if discrimination is necessarily the word to use, but I do think that there are a lot of mindsets that don't really mesh with the idea of it, inclusivity, or maybe a better way to say that is there's a lot of mindsets that don't really understand somebody different than them. And I think, you know, I'm guilty of that. Everybody's guilty of that. But I think that's, you know, it's not something that would prohibit, definitely not. But I think that it is something, a little extra challenge, some stuff that you have to think about every day that maybe a man in the same position wouldn't have to think about.
Yeah, wouldn't have the same challenges, wouldn't have to prove themselves, wouldn't have to work as hard.
Sure, yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Bonnie, same question for you, because you kind of came across a pond. Do you see any difference between hiring more women in England and hiring more women here in sound?
I think probably the ratio is about the same. Definitely at a mixer level. I think the job overall is an overall sound department. You'll find maybe like some areas there might be more women, say in the Foley department. I think definitely at Skywalker is, you know, there's a more balanced female kind of male ratio there. Even like dialogue editing and stuff like that. Certainly like the effects side of it, it's pretty light. It's pretty light, I'm not gonna lie. And in England it was the same. I mean, we don't really divide up so much in TV in England. You could just kind of, you just do it, you just get on with it and do everything. But I worked in studios, and the studios I worked in England was like half and half, but there was only 9 of us, so whatever. So maybe not half and half, because that's kind of weird. But, you know, there was, you know, we were whole people. Anyway, and then I was freelance, and then it's kind of different when you're freelance, because you're always like out of your comfort zone constantly. And yeah, sometimes I would turn up and they'd be like, "Who are you?" And I'd be like, "I'm the mixer." They'd be like,
"Yeah, they
cool."
Yeah, they didn't
That's
expect.
Cool.
What they're saying is they didn't expect a woman.
Yeah, but it's fine. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm still gonna do my job.
Exactly, we can do the job because we've got mad skills, and we have a thing called a brain.
Yeah, and like Danielle was saying, I mean, I think like now workplace environment, I don't feel like I don't get jobs or anything. You know, I think probably deep down, I feel like I have to work harder and be better, but I would do that anyway. I think if I was a guy, I would still work harder and want to be better.
Yes. Good for you.
So yeah.
I will say that the unique set of challenges that we face, those have a reward to it. You know, the going through the motions and kind of having to figure out a new puzzle every time you work with somebody who's not necessarily on the same page as you, that grows you as a person and grows you as a career-oriented employee, and it gives you skills to then handle a challenging client or a challenging project a lot better than somebody who might not have had to navigate something that you have had to in the past. So in that way, it's challenging, but it's also even more rewarding.
All right, Tanvi, for you, did you have to prove yourself? You came from India. So what has been, for you personally, any discrimination because you're female and that you show up for a job and they say, oh, you're in, like Bonnie said, oh, you're the mixer? So tell us your experience.
Well, it's actually really hard for me to answer this question. I'm so new to the industry and to this country as well. But I will say, like, at Pandora, where I work, we're a team of 15 audio producers. There's just 3 women, including me. And if anything, like, you know, when I went for my interview, it was such a rigorous round. 4 men were interviewing me, and it went on, and for 3 days, and of various rounds, and the HR manager, you know, when she offered me the job, and one thing that she said is that, you know, I know 4 men were interviewing you, but I hope you didn't feel intimidated. And I said, to myself, I thought, well, no, I thought I just felt special. I mean, because I've actually, I wouldn't use, again, the word discrimination, but, like, you know, I've never had that happen to me here. But at home, back when I used to work in an agency, and I'm not kidding, but our team was the biggest team in the agency. We were a team of 40, and I was the only woman there. And that felt great because, I mean, if I can turn it around and say, hey, you know, I got all the attention. I felt special, and it was great because I've just been able to carry that forward over here, and if anything, I feel fine, and I feel great. I feel comfortable.
Rock on, as we say. So, Gwen, to you. Tough being a woman in the business? Tell us.
I have to say, you know, for me personally, I don't think I've ever felt discriminated against. I think that, I mean, again, this is just me personally, and I know that a lot of people don't have it, but I think it's kind of helped me. I mean, I know that there's certain jobs that I got because there's a lady director. Oh, let's have a lady supervisor. I mean, that kind of thing, which is fine. And I mean, I also knew that I could do the job, and it worked out. It's been great. So in that way, being a woman has been a good thing. I don't think it's just women, though. I think that the whole film industry needs more people of color. It's great to see you here. More. I mean, there are very few black people. I think that should change. I mean, I think at the ranch we now have 2 black people. We have 2 Asian people. Is that right? I think maybe 1 Hispanic person. So it would be nice.
They're trying to get diversity.
Yeah. 2 Hispanic people. But I mean, I think that it's also, and it's like Laura was saying, the more people of different genders, races, backgrounds, the better everything is, because you have different perspectives, and you're all, you know, respect each other, you all work together, and you bring a different flavor to the whole thing. So.
And obviously, I think that, you know, for the 5 women, I mean, you're proving to really the world and to the industry that women are valuable. We have mad skills, and we should be hired. I'm going to open it up for Q&As in just a bit from you all, but a few last questions I have for the panelists. This is such a reporter question, but I'm going to ask it. Laura, I'm going to start with you. You got to tell us like a down in the trenches story that, you know, was awful or terrible, and you survived it.
Okay, well, I don't want to put you down here, but honestly, I don't like to talk about bad stories. I think that when people have a bad experience, I don't think it's something we should celebrate or we should share in this sort of like, you know, I think those are things you should avoid at all costs. You shouldn't make them part of your bio. They should be, put the good stuff on top. I guess that's my point. And so, anybody else can tell your bad story,
Right,
go
so-
for it.
okay,
but
but-
personally,
no,
that's
good
my
point,
own
Laura.
feeling.
Good point. So tell us a good thing that happened to you and related to sound and movies that you can celebrate.
Well, I think a lot of times when I'm working on a film, there'll be a moment when you're working with a director, and I can think of this one movie. I don't know if it was Iron Man 2 or something, but the director is this guy Jon Favreau, and he was a director I'd only worked with on one other film, and we were mixing the movie, and I was mixing the music, and he came up and he stood next to me, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, yes, all right," and he was like right there with me while I was working. And I thought, this is great, because normally these people sort of sit behind you and they kind of say, yeah, that's good. But he was so excited by this process, and that what we were doing was I was sort of interpreting what he wanted to have happen, and for whatever reason, we were on the same wavelength at that moment. So it was really exciting when there's a big name director or somebody you're sort of looking up to as your boss, and they come down right at your own level, and they're there working with you. And I think that's a very thrilling moment. I don't know if you guys have ever had that, but you feel like you're really sort of channeling somebody else's artistic, you know, interpretation, and you're being able to do it yourself, and you're being able to do it for them. So that's a good feeling.
That was a good one. Okay, Danielle, to you. Good or bad story? Tell us.
No, bad one. Give us a bad one.
No, I like that. I like that mentality, because I think it kind of takes away the necessity to kind of be a doormat in order to prove yourself and in order to like have, you know, a successful resume. I like that a lot. So yeah, I'll stick with good stories. Let me think.
Oh, she's got to really think about a good story. So there must have been some really tough ones.
No, I'm just kidding. It was wonderful kombucha at work today. Yeah, I think, again, like from a creative standpoint, my experiences aren't, you know, as broad as yours or Gwen's are. I think that there's really two ways to have a good experience on a film. You either really love the film that you're working on, and you really get behind the vision, and you're really stoked it's something that you want to see out in the world, and you're happy to help with it. And then the other one is like maybe it's something you don't really care about that much, but the crew that you're working with is really phenomenal. And one of the things I like most about this this path in this industry is how collaborative the whole thing is. And you work long hours, you're under a lot of pressure, and if you're lucky, you get to do something you really like with the people that you really like to do it with. I've had countless of those experiences, particularly at Skywalker, working with a team of really, really talented people who you've gotten to know over the years and now are very close with. And you connect creatively, you connect in a nonverbal way, and at the end of the day, everybody is kind of pulling together to create something that's going to hopefully touch people in, you know, in some sort of way. So kind of when I think about the really rewarding experiences and the good experiences at Skywalker, you know, they're at like 10 or 11 at night, and people are getting loopy, and people are laughing and making good decisions about what's going to get recorded, and everyone's kind of in it together, and there's this solidarity to that, and so that's.
It's a team sport.
It's definitely a team sport, yeah.
All right. So Bonnie, to you, good or bad? Lay it out on us. Give it to us. Your choice.
No, I agree. I think it's like the collaboration element, and the crew is such a huge thing, because sometimes you know, we spend a lot of time at work, and so you know, there's times where you might weigh it up a bit. You know, I mean, like I've got 2 young kids and stuff, and sometimes you're like, well, you know, I'm at work a lot. Is it worth it? And I'm still like, yeah, this is good. It's still real good fun. You know, and you do that a lot. And it, like The Last Jedi, that was so much fun. I mean, like Danielle said, I'm a dweeb. It's like this was like a whole thing. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna work on a Star Wars movie. And you know, you start that thing, and when you're an effects editor, you open your session up and it's blank, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna make this sound like a Star Wars movie. And you know, there's a moment like I drove to the ranch that day, and you just kind of like, oh, who's gonna do it? You know, and it was a thing. I mean, honestly, still driving to the ranch every day, I'm still like, oh, I'm still going there. Yeah,
it's a beautiful.
She has a very short commute, though.
It is. It's tiny now. I've like slowly like eked it. I'm at the bottom of the hill now. I'm not driving over the bridge anymore. Yeah. I'm done with it. But when I even like driving over the bridge every day, I was like a small child at Christmas.
Skywalker, I hope some of you get to go to visit Skywalker Ranch, because it's beautiful, and if you get to work there, oh my gosh, it's like, you know, it's like a spa land or something.
It is crazy. And when you've worked in other sound facilities that are always grey buildings on industrial estates that are just unkept. And, you know, a lot of the places I worked in England, you'd be like, can we get Pro Tools? And they'd be like, no. Literally, and when I started working at Skywalker, I started in the like digital support system, and they were like, okay, so like somebody asked for a plug-in. I was like, oh no, because I'm gonna have to tell them like no. It's like, no, you give it to them. I was like, really? It's like, yeah, whatever they want, you give it to them. I was like, ooh, wow. Anything? Oh, yeah, anything. But oh, it's not going to be so bad.
Yeah. There's also a really nice restaurant at Skywalker too. I mean, you can eat there. And,
yeah.
I mean, the
pretty
place
good.
looks like, you know, Gone with the Wind, and I mean, it's beautiful. Tanvi, same question to you. Good or bad? Spill it.
Not really. I mean, I'm actually afraid to say it out loud, but like my luck has been so good. I have good stories.
Good stories. Tell us the best.
No bad story.
Okay, so tell us the best, so we can all be encouraged.
don't really have a great story, but I have an okay story.
We'll take it.
I mean, recently, you know, I always like I said before, like I was, you know, I just said goodbye to the ad world, like 8 years ago, and you know, I never and I left in such anger, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm frustrated, but you never know when it comes to bite you back, because I'm now in the ad industry, but you know, it's great that I actually am seeing the great points about having this job and how unique and one of a kind it is. The great thing that just recently happened is that you know, I was hired as a sole audio producer, and I worked as an audio producer for 6 months, and you know, the great thing that came out of this is I went up to my boss one day and I said, hey, you know, I have all these skills, and I don't think I'm contributing much. You think I can do a double role? So can I be a audio copywriter / audio producer? And he said, yeah, we can. And you know, they just promoted me to this new role that's never been done before. And you know, I feel so amazing and valued to, you know, that a company will like move mountains if you just tell them that you're interested in doing something. So my title is very confusing, but I promise you it is so amazing.
So the point is, you asked for it.
I asked for it, yeah. There's no harm in not asking. You have
Exactly.
nothing to lose. So I said, I want this. May I have it?
Right.
And he said, you can have it, yeah.
So that's another point we want to tell our students. Ask for it. Just go up and ask, and you know you could deliver the goods.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 jobs at once, but you know, it's great because I'm able to use my past knowledge into my current job, and I mean, I believe that makes me really powerful.
Valuable, totally valuable. Gwen, same question for you. Good story, bad story, in-between story, tell us.
First of all, what you're saying, closed mouth doesn't get fed. If you don't ask for it, no one can read your mind, you're not going to get it. The worst that they can say is no, and you're exactly where you were when you started. So be brave. It's hard, but be brave. Laura reminded me of a story that we work with some of the most amazing creative minds in the world, of writers, directors, everything. And I was working with Spielberg, who's, you know, he's pretty good at his job. And
pretty good, yeah.
And I was at that time I was an ADR editor, and he never came to any of the ADR sessions. Basically, what the performance that was in his track is what he wanted. So you would do, normally it's just technical stuff that, I don't know, if something was going on, you had to fix it. And the nice thing about him not being there was you could make the actors do things that he probably wouldn't have had you do. You could say, Spielberg loved your performance, it was great, we just have to exactly replicate that. So if there's some sort of annoying whine, that would be whatever. You could make them do stuff that normally you probably wouldn't be able to do, and you go over and over and over the takes to make sure the performance was exactly the same. So, but because it was for Spielberg, the actor was like, okay, yeah, okay, got it. And so in Munich, I did that, and then we were doing the mixing, and Spielberg would come in for playbacks, and he'd walk away, and he'd come in. And then one day, he came in for a playback, and he left, and he came back about 2 seconds later, and he turned around, and in front of the room, which was all men, he said, "You have the best ADR chops in the business." And I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Right, woohoo!
I don't think that's still true, but maybe that day it was. So that is a nice story.
It is a nice story. So last question before I open it up to, and here's the mic, people. So come on down, ask any questions of our panelists. But before I toss it to the students, if you can give us something specific, a challenge that you had to meet in terms of sound and obviously audio on one of your movies, and if you can be specific for the students and tell us how you resolved it. So a specific challenge in a movie, maybe, you know, the actor wasn't there to reread the lines, or how you had to make it up. I mean, you gave a great story about how you took out that, I'm going to watch the movie again, how you took out the audio there and put in new audio. I mean, tell us something specific, Laura.
Well, I guess for a sort of a technical challenge, I mixed a movie called Jungle Book, and we had actors portraying different animals, big cats, and one of the actors, Idris Elba, we needed to make his voice sound like a tiger. So I played around a lot with a particular program where we could actually incorporate some cat sounds through this synthesizer, kind of vocal synthesizer, and put his voice with it. And at the end of the day, it was really interesting because you couldn't really, it was better than just actually laying a sound on top of another sound. It was basically a way to have one modulate the other. And I thought it worked really well, and no one kind of knew we did it until we took it away, and they're like, wait, what's wrong with his voice now? What would you guys do? And like, oh, no, that's your original track. The one that we all like has this additional element to it. So the challenge there was to take something that was really natural, make it sound different, but also really natural.
All right, Jungle Book, love that. Disney movie, right?
Yes.
Okay, Danielle, question to you, same question. Specific challenge, how you resolved it in one of your movies.
This is kind of like an overarching challenge that I think a lot of us run into a lot, myself included, is translating the language from somebody creative, like a director or a producer, who is trying to attain a certain product and trying to express what he wants or what she wants and how they want it to sound, and taking what's in their mind and A, understanding it yourself, and B, understanding how to actually execute that. And so that's a pretty constant thing that you're running into of, you know, it's like, I like it, I just want something a little more you know? Yeah. Just I want more blue, it's just like, it sounds like but I want it to sound like oh, and then you're like, okay, well, it's now my job to do that. And that's not, you know, I don't really think that there's, other than lots of experience and lots of time working with that particular person, there's no surefire way to solve that. But I think that the biggest thing is just to keep trying over and over again, and from different angles, and even come up with angles that you didn't think were there. You know, just really open your mind to a lot of different ways to do the one thing that you need to do.
Thanks, Danielle. Bonnie, question to you. Specific challenge in terms of sound, and how did you resolve it? And what are your movies?
I mean, I think for me, everything is still a constant challenge. I mean, it's still, there's still lots of things. I know actually, I did a Pixar short, Lou, and that came with it's a challenge that we kind of like face constantly, which is music and effects balance, and kind of what can cut with the music and work with the music, and how you can kind of balance these things. And that particular short was quite tricky. Like Lou was, he was this creature, I guess, that was like made from a lost and found box on a schoolyard. And so the designer, Jeremy Bowker, who's extremely talented, he made all these like amazing sounds. But we again, our hands were still tied by, you know, the fact that it's a baseball and a slinky, you know, and these things. And during the mix, the music was, like Christoph Beck did the music. It was very cool music, but it was also very percussive. So we had a lot of like percussive elements all kind of happening at once. And we really had to like attach the sounds of Lou to Lou. So it's definitely like Lou making these sounds traveling around the screen, and also have the, you know, everyone's like the music right up there and stuff. And so that, you know, things like that are always kind of a challenge, and you've got to work the room also. So the music editor wants to be happy because, you know, they're representing the composer at that point, and the director and the picture editor, you know, it's all like things like that is just always, it's really the constant.
Right.
It's a constant.
Teamwork again, teamwork. So Tanvi, for you, I mean, you know, still you're new in the biz, but still you must have had a challenge that you rose to the occasion and resolved in terms of mixing and sound and audio. Tell us.
Yeah, I had a lot of challenges, actually. I'll speak to the two clips you heard, because one was when I did freelance sound for video, and then I'm solely audio now, so it's two different things. But Cheetos ad that you heard was the first double roll ad that I just did in Pandora to prove that, hey, you know, I could do this double roll. And usually I wrote the script and then I produced it myself. And you know, if I was just a producer, I'd have to make the client happy and the copywriter happy. But in this case, I wanted to make myself happy, and that was the big challenge for me, because I'm like, if I can please myself, and as a listener, if I would listen to this, and if I was the client, I'd say this is great, then you know, everyone else is gonna be happy. And so it was super, super difficult, because when you're not in the business for 8 years and you suddenly get thrown into it, and it was hard for me to navigate from wearing a writer's hat to being a audio person, and I couldn't understand what's right and what's wrong. But then, you know, usually they say that we're supposed to finish an ad in 7 minutes, produce an ad. That's how many ads we do on a daily basis. But this took me 5 hours, and it was totally worth it because it came out great. And so that was one crazy challenge. But the Netflix movie that you saw, I was like, I think I hadn't even graduated yet. And I remember my mentor said, hey, you want this film? I said, yeah, hell yes, I want this film. I'm never going to say no. So I took it up, and without knowing, you know, the art of dialogue editing or anything, but I said, I'll learn on the way. I mean, you know, I'm not going to say no to this just because I don't know. I'll figure it out. And it was not that he was there to handhold me, but, you know, he said, do what you can. And that was the best advice he said. Like, he knows that when he knows my capabilities are only so much, but most of the film was shot, you know, with no production sound person on set. It was shot on camera. And it was so hard for me to take all those voices out, you know, make the dialogue, like, you know, intelligible at least, if it not sound great. But when he said, you know, do what you can, that just gave me the motivation to make it do, you know, make it sound the best that I can in my abilities. It was great.
And you know, it matters that you spent the time, 5 hours, for somebody, but it mattered to you, and that's what matters most, that it's pride of work.
Also, it was easy for me because it was free work, so I could put in as many hours as I
There you
wanted.
go. That free work
Without
again.
anyone saying,
Yes.
no, you did wrong.
So Gwen, to you, any specific challenge in a specific movie in terms of audio sound that you had to resolve?
Well, it's actually every movie, and one thing I'm basically a word person. I don't do effects, which is probably a good thing, but I love it when you can take a scene that's got like thumps under the dialogue or bumps or something, and you can totally fix it by using alts and just taking stuff from other places, and nobody notices, and the performance is exactly the same, and you've made everybody sound hydrated, you've gotten rid of all their lip smacks, you've gotten rid of all this stuff, and nobody, and everyone's like, oh, it sounds so much better, and then you're just like, and then you don't have to ADR, you can save them all that money because you can fix it. So I'm a really good cheat.
Love that. Love to hear that. All right, students, questions. Please come up to the mic, and so we can hear your question. Any question is fabulous. Come on up. Just line up here.
When I ask, should I stand up here or just
No, say right there and
when I ask, though, do I sit back down so I don't?
No, you can listen to your answer right here.
Okay.
So come
Sorry,
on.
I don't want to.
Say your name and what are you studying?
Okay. Hi, my name is Rainey, like the weather, just to make sure. I'm in music composition for digital media. It's going pretty well so far. I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Is that good? Okay. So one is pretty much just like kind of a shallow question. What is your guys' favorite band, or a couple of them?
Ooh, good one.
Yes.
Okay. And the second question?
And then second, what is the best advice you've ever gotten?
Okay, good.
For your
best advice
job.
you've ever gotten. That's a good one.
For
Okay,
your
so
job.
first, favorite band. We're going to go down the line. Laura.
The Pixies.
Okay. Danielle. Favorite band.
Of all time, toss up between Led Zeppelin and D'Angelo.
Ooh, okay. Bonnie.
Nirvana.
Nirvana. All right.
She's in a Nirvana cover band called Hervana.
Oh, we love that. Love that. Okay. Tanvi, favorite band.
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac. Gwen, favorite band.
I can't answer that.
I know that's a really hard question.
All right, so Rain, your second question is the best advice you've ever gotten. Laura.
I think it was, probably trust your own instincts. You know, if you have pretty good taste. Most people do. And so trust your own instincts and try not to second guess your instincts.
Okay, great. Danielle.
I've heard, I don't know, I've heard it quite a bit from both you and Gwen. Up when they kiss, down when they talk, from you.
What is that?
Up when they kiss, down when they talk.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard
That's
Gwen.
music. That's a music mix.
Yeah. I've heard Gwen say quite a bit, and I think about this a lot. What she just said, closed mouths don't get fed. I think she's totally right.
She just stole my line.
I'm sorry.
Right. So in other words, speak up, ask.
And not from either of you guys, but just a personal mentor says to me a lot, be a tougher bitch, please.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Bonnie, best advice you've ever gotten?
I think it was probably when I was making my plan to move from England to America, and someone told me, I think it was good advice. That's a crazy plan. Make a better plan. And I thought he was crazy, so I didn't, and so then I did it.
It all worked out. Tanvi.
Ooh, actually, the best advice I ever got was from a professor who's not over here, and thank God, because I don't know who he is, or I only took one class and I ran away because I couldn't handle that class. But the first thing he said was "Good morning," and I want to give you a very good, some really good advice. And we all were like, "What is it?" And he said, "If you're on time, you're late." And I said, that's awesome. And you know, it's beautiful words, so simple, but makes so much sense. And I mean, I wish I would have taken that class just for his advice, but if he's watching this later, thank you very much for that.
There you go. Gwen, to you.
She already stole my line, but I already said it earlier. Just be brave. Be brave. Think like a man.
So Rain, does that help you answer your questions?
It does. Just saying, my mom always told me to surround yourself with like-minded people, and that is one of the reasons why I'm here at this school. I took her advice, and I'm enjoying myself.
And she's a smart mom.
She is. She's good. Thank
Yay,
you.
Mom. Okay, thank you. What's that? Oh, online question, but come on up and stand here. We're going to give an online question. Brad, what is the question?
This is from Francisco Arciniega, and this is for Tanvi. Tanvi,
Okay.
what has been the biggest challenge of the transformation from student to professional in the field?
Tanvi.
Oh man, finding a job.
Finding a
It
job.
was my full-time job to find a job. That was very painful, and it was really hard. I would be on my computer 8 hours a day just sending applications I knew would never come back to me. But it doesn't, there's no harm in trying. I mean, you know, I probably have like 600 resumes out there, and none of them came back, but my friend once told me, you know, it only takes that one, and that one came by, and I'm here today. So the challenge was, you know, it's just, if you're persistent, then, you know, you'll get it. Something always works out.
Yeah. Good advice. Okay, question to the audience. Your name and tell us what you're studying, and if you're a graduate student, undergraduate, tell us.
I'm an undergraduate, Destiny Davis. Thank you.
Okay.
My question is, how much free work do you have to do before you have to get paid?
Okay, free work. The question is, how much free work do you have to do before you get paid? And I think, Gwen, you talked about free work, certainly Tanvi. So Gwen, take that question.
Or before you, I mean, when's the point when you actually have to get paid for?
When you're about to be evicted. You know, as long, I mean, the best free work is like, oh, this person's really good. And the next thing I have, I'm going to hire them and I'm going to pay them because I'm so thankful for the work that they've done for me. Free work is done so people can start to get to know what you can do, what your style is. They like working with you, and it's kind of like networking. So that's why you do it, because no one's going to hire somebody if they don't know you, if they don't have a feel of you. Well, that's not nobody, but you usually hire people that you know. So if you volunteer for some, particularly in the beginning, I mean, I know it was Jurassic Days when I started, but I worked on student films. I was a student. I worked on student films, and a lot of people in this business now, they're still student film. They worked together in film school, and that's how Ren and David Fincher, they were in school together. That's how they met. So, and they're, you know,
making connections in school. Tommy, you talked about free work. So your advice about, yes, work the free work and then get paid, what would you say?
Oh man, I did free work for 3 years, but by year 3, like I looked at it as I kind of twisted around and said, you know, let's look at this as a barter system. You know, I don't want any money, don't pay me, that's fine. Can you give me credits instead? Can you give me your SFX library, because I can't afford it. So by like year 3, and this is all from my mentor, and you know, he, for this film I did, he gave me 1 TB of his library, SFX library, that he had collected over 30 years, and that's invaluable. And you know, the stuff I got was credits, great credits, my names on the internet. That's awesome. And I mean, you know, at one point he realized, oh, I should pay this girl, and then he did, and then it never stopped from there. So you know, there's no point. I think person who you work for, if they realize, like, you know, it's time, it'll be time at that point of time. That's how I had it.
Good advice. Okay, that works for you?
Yep.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. And if we have any more internet questions, online questions. Okay, Jennifer, come on up here. Tell us your name and what you're studying, what, if you're graduate, undergraduate, what part of the program, so that they get a better sense of who you are.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ladies. My name is Jennifer Hernandez. I am a sound design and engineer major for a master's student. Previously, I did my BFA here for producing for 3D and visual effects. And I have 2 questions, if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
One of them is, since you ladies have had such a long career, what is some advice that you would give somebody to make sure that you're always a good asset to your company, and they don't see you as something, or not something, excuse me, someone that they would let go after a certain amount? Because I understand that our industry is always moving forward and everything, and it's very easy to possibly get left behind. So what's something that you always make sure to keep up so that you're always a valuable asset to your company?
Okay. Question, Laura, can you take that, please?
Yeah, I think, you know, the reason that my career lasts a long time is because I have relationships with directors. It's not necessarily with the company. So I think the advice would be, you're working for these creative people, so you need to make a connection to those creative people. And I think it's also true that if there's a certain artist or certain filmmaker or musician that you feel really strongly about, passionately about their work, you can contact them and offer your services and try to be part of their team, because you immediately have something in common with them if their art speaks to you that way. And so I think that it's also important that you develop those relationships with those, you know, the key creative people, but also that you keep your own creative interests going. Like I always work on documentaries and low budget films, and I do the whole range of things because that's what those are interesting to me, and that makes me a better creative person when I go on to the more Hollywood stuff.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yes,
ma'am. Yes, and Skywalker Ranch people, I'm calling you both. Danielle and Bonnie, any advice, because you've been there 6 years, you know, for our student here, about having staying power, really. Danielle.
I should have used this for the earlier question, but another really good piece of advice that I got from a professor when I was in school was, particularly in an industry like this, nobody's going to hire you if they don't want to be in the same room as you. And no matter how good your skill is, you could be the most technically advanced person in the world, but if you can't work collaboratively with a wide range of people and learn how to connect with them, that's, you know, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice. And so I think there's a lot to be, you know, you don't have to be best friends with these people, but, you know, you do have to kind of bring something to the room aside from just working really hard and constantly improving and constantly doing the same thing over and over, but a little bit better each time.
Okay, good advice. Bonnie, can you just add to that? I mean, staying power?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I think it's kind of a lot of it is kind of visibility as well. You know, kind of, you know, there's a certain amount of social aspect. Also, I mean, at Skywalker, there's supervisors, and supervisors hire people, so you know, there's a certain amount of kind of people making people know that you exist and that you have skills that can be useful, and to kind of find that balance of like not being annoyingly in somebody's face all the time, but just letting them know that you're available and that you can do the job, and that it would be great to work with them. I think there's a lot of that as well. Self-promotion.
I think also so much of it has to do with your own internal monologue and your own belief in your skill set. This is such a big industry. There's always going to be a job to do. There's always going to be somebody who needs work done. And sometimes you can be your own biggest enemy if you don't believe that you yourself are valuable and that you can do a job even if it is above your skill set at the moment or if it's challenging. So I think a lot of staying power has to do with your ability to get up every day and just be like, yeah, this is mine, I have it, I can do it, and I'll do it again and again and again.
Good advice. I mean, Gwen, I'm going to go to you because, you know, you're the veteran here. I mean, staying power. Tell us what it takes.
You know, I mean, for Laura's not exactly that far from me, just so we all, let's be clear here.
She's my very old friend.
You know, so back in the days of MAG, which no one knows what MAG is, it was a long time ago. But there were a lot of, every editor had their own assistant. And so I worked with this great editor, Michael Silvers, and I worked with him for 6 years as his assistant. And it was, you know, he worked all the time, so I worked all the time. And because everybody liked Michael, they liked me. And so, I mean, it kind of worked that way. And then when we did the digital change, and the crews got smaller, I'd been there long enough. Again, it's about people like your work, and they want to be in the same room with you. Those things matter. Making the jump from an assistant to an editor was a big, scary change. Making the jump from editor to supervisor was a big, scary change. But people know you. They say, oh, yeah, oh, I didn't think about her that way. But you ask, and they say, oh, yeah, let's give her a try on this low-budget thing that, you know, you won't get paid very much. She did a great job. Let's hire her again on the next one. So we're all freelance. We all work job to job. Well, I think we're all freelance. I don't know about you guys, but yeah. So you're kind of only as good as your last job. So every job you got to make, you got to give every job, even if it pays nothing, even if it's a documentary. I find it really hard to do a bad job. I mean, it's like. Because you do that's how you do your job. You give it your best every time. And so if you do that, chances are you're going to keep getting hired.
Thank you.
Great advice. Good for you?
Just amazing advice and valuable to me. Thank you.
Okay. Next question? You have another question?
Yes.
Sure, go.
My last question is to Miss Bonnie, and I wanted to, it's not much of a question as it is a thank you for sharing your story of how you changed countries to come to Skywalker. I can by no means compare my story, but I swapped states from living my whole life in Texas and left my family to come over here to California, to the Bay Area, to hopefully do the same type of goal, which is also to work at Skywalker and work on a Star Wars movie. Been a Star Wars fan since 6 years old, so
come and have lunch.
Well,
take her up on
the
this.
world to me. You would have no idea how much that would mean to me. It's been a dream. It's been my parents' dream too, since they saw the passion that I have for it. So thank you so much for such a beautiful story and for your advice as well, ladies. Thank you.
And did you hear her invitation?
I did.
And did you say I accept?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say I accept.
Yes, you can, because we are all witnesses here. So tell her you accept.
Miss Bonnie, if it's all right with you, may I please accept that invitation? Thank you.
So let's have an online question, Brad.
This is from the same student as before. This is from Francisco. This is a good question. Would you consider it important to obtain or maintain a musical ear when it comes to sound design, seeing as how you often will orchestrate the different sounds to picture?
Anybody in particular that were asking that question?
That's a general question to anybody.
Okay, so let's start from here. Yeah. Gwen, you take that. Orchestration consideration.
I think that good sound design has to live with the music. So it can't fight it. So absolutely, it all has to be part of a whole in the end.
Okay.
Unless you want it to be dissonant and fight, but that's a different thing.
Okay. Tanvi, your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of use that in my day-to-day work. I do have a little bit of Indian classical hand percussion background, and I play I can only play like 4 chords on the guitar, but I have a good rhythm sense. So. Yeah, I do have a rhythm sense, and I see that helping when I'm, I have like specific client requests that are so insane, and if I'm not able to understand the custom music bed that they want, or even sourcing the music bed, or editing even, like I cannot make those decisions if I don't know basic 4/4 rhythm or anything, and I think. I never thought that would come in handy, but it has, and it's absolutely very relevant to have that. Yeah. Any kind of music background is absolutely helpful.
Okay, Bonnie, you studied music.
Yeah, I think it's very helpful. I mean, I don't design the sounds, but I cut the sounds, and certainly when I am cutting the effects, I have the music track up so I can hear like what the music's doing. Because the two things, they're playing with each other and they're working together to tell the story, and you always have to bear in mind the music's never gonna go anywhere. And it has to do its thing. But yeah, completely. And also you'll find sometimes that directors might express themselves musically, like when they're describing sounds to you. Or certainly rhythmically, even on that Star Wars clip, I remember the director would be like, "I want it to go like ba 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 boom," and all those things. It's so rhythmic, and it's really useful just to kind of be able to grab like the rhythm and melody part of the brain and use that when you're making things.
Okay, great. Danielle, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's not necessary, but I think it absolutely does help from a mixer standpoint. Being able to pinpoint what frequencies are happening in the music and what frequencies are happening in the sound effects, that's really going to be able to give you space to work with both a little bit better. I think more than anything, though, a sense of rhythm, because working in sound, like Laura was saying, you work really closely with a picture editor, and a lot of the picture editor's work is rhythm. It's not bars and beats like a musicians is, but they're constantly thinking about rhythm and timing and that sort of thing. And so if you have a sense for that, then it's only an asset.
Great. Laura?
When you're talking about orchestrating sound, pretty much when we're mixing, that's kind of what our job is. It's to play the different sounds in an organized, logical way. So sometimes you bring something to the foreground, sometimes you push something back, sometimes you make something louder or lower frequencies. So you're constantly orchestrating the sounds that you have, not necessarily related to music, but just in the whole idea of the mix, that there's something now that's the solo instrument, if it's the voice or if it's a particular sound effect or whatever it is that kind of brings you through the story. I always think about sound as being like, it's sort of pulling you. It's like this line that sort of pulls you through the story. And so when we're mixing, that's kind of what we're doing. We're taking the different elements and using them to keep propelling you through the story and to following the narrative, but also to following what the picture edit is doing as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a question here. Tell us your name and what you're studying, obviously, and what year you're in. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Meng. And my major is music.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name.
My name is Meng.
Meng, got it. And you're from where?
I'm from China.
Okay,
yeah,
welcome. Okay, go ahead.
And my major is music production. My question is, how did you get your first big name movie?
How did you get the first big name movie? How did you land that first big name movie?
Yeah.
Laura?
I worked, so when I started in sound, there was sort of this chain of jobs that kind of got you eventually to being in the mixing position. So I worked in the machine room, I worked in the transfer department, I worked in the recording side, I worked as a stage recorder. So I took all these different jobs, and each one of those kind of got me closer and closer and closer to the dub stage, the mix room. And finally, I don't know exactly who it was, but somebody said, okay, well, we're going to do this temp mix, which is kind of like a mix that you do very quickly for a few days, and it's to make a mix for a film that they're going to show to an audience so that they can kind of respond to the movie. It's not the final mix, but it's a quick kind of mix. Mm-hmm. And we need somebody else to help us do it. You come help on this stage. You know, you're going to be in the machine room, but today we'll want you to be in the dubbing stage. And that was with one of the mixers who I'd been working with for a long time. So we, like Gwen said, we had this sort of relationship. We knew each other. We knew we would get along. We knew I could sit in the room for 10 hours and not make him insane, that's key. So even though the movie itself wasn't a big movie, for me it was a big step because suddenly now I'm the one who's actually sitting there doing the job that I want to do. I can't remember what temp mix it was, but.
What was the movie, Laura?
I can't remember.
Oh, you can't?
I told you. I'm very, very old. I love that movie.
It's okay. That's okay. All right, Danielle, what was the big movie for you? First big movie?
I don't know. There's been a lot of big movies at Skywalker. I think what's maybe a more relevant idea to toss around is when I was first getting started, after I was graduating school, there seemed to be two paths to take. You can either try and get a really competitive position at a big name place, or you can try and branch out and do it on your own and hustle and grind and try and network and meet the right people, and that way you have more freedom, and you might get lucky. I've never been that person. I have always wanted to work. I've always seen the clearest path to work on big things through working at a big place. I've always had the standpoint or the mindset of like, if you give me a job, I'll work my butt off for it, but I don't want to have to work my butt off just to work my butt off. And so that's, everybody has their different ways of working. That's particularly mine. So if, I don't know, I think that if you want to work on big records or you want to work on big movies, then start with big studios.
Good advice.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bonnie.
Probably my equivalent was in England, just like getting the first TV drama to mix. Yeah, I can't remember what it had been. It was probably a show. It was probably this show called Heartbeat, which was so laid back. Cop drama set in the 60s music going on, people going by in like really nice sounding motorbikes. Phones ringing in telephone boxes. God, so good. But that was just through, again, literally sitting next to the other mixer for 10 hours every day for 5-6 years or whatever. And the setup I had there I was always mixer Foley and he would do everything else. And then it was just like, yeah, we should probably just switch. We'll switch. You do this, I'll do that. He did a terrible job mixing the Foley. And everything was good, yeah.
So there you go. All right, Tommy, for you, first big movie.
Oh, I haven't had that chance yet.
Okay, first big Netflix.
That was, I'm hoping it's bigger one day, and hopefully these fine folks can give me a chance to do that.
Oh, there you go. She's asking. She's asking where to go. All right.
Yeah, but I would say, Netflix, definitely. Tribeca Netflix film. That came after 3 years of
working free.
Yeah,
and barter.
Cleaning bathrooms and making coffee and feeding people, and it all pays off one day.
Got to pay your dues. Gwen, first big movie.
I was a picture assistant for a while, and then I didn't know how to, very, very small budget things. I didn't know how to find a job after that. Again, this is pre-computer everything, so I got the Hollywood Reporter, and they have a thing in the Hollywood Reporter of all the films in production. So I had a resume, and I just started sending resumes out. And I, didn't hear anything. We had an answering machine. It was very cool to have an answering machine. I thought, okay, I'm going to leave my house tomorrow morning for 3 hours. I'm not going to come back. I'm going to go to get a coffee. I'm just not going to be home. Those 3 hours, I came back, there were 3 calls on the answering machine. The first 2 were for jobs in LA. The third one was to work at Willow at the Ranch, on Willow at the Ranch. I thought, well, I live here, might as well work on Willow. If I'd been home, I would have probably gotten the job in LA, and who knows what would have happened.
Wow, great story. Okay, Mung, does that help you? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hannah Shea. I know Hannah personally. She's fabulous. She is fabulous on the dulcimer. She has her own. She competed in a production that I run. It's called Academy's Got Talent. I ripped it off from America's Got Talent, I admit. And we have students participating, singing, music, rapping. Hannah came because I met her in my yoga class. True story.
Yeah.
And I heard her talking about playing music, and I said, well, what do you play? She said, the dulcimer. I had no idea what the dulcimer was. I said, bring it, come, play. She is fabulous on the dulcimer. She's had recitals. She's played it for how many years? 17 years?
19 years.
19 years. And she won our show.
Congratulations.
It was, yeah, because it's votes. I mean, you know, audience votes, judges voting, all students, and online votes. And she won, and she actually went to audition.
Yeah.
Tell them where you went to audition with your dulcimer.
Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona, for?
Yeah. For America's Got Talent.
Isn't that fabulous? She actually went and she auditioned. And they were not good because they didn't pick her. But Hannah, tell us your question.
Oh, my question is, because I'm going to graduate this December, so I hope you can give me some suggestion that if I'm going to interview in a company, so what kind of things I need to notice? Yeah.
What should she say at company interviews?
Yes, company interview.
What kind of job are you looking for?
My major is music production, and I'm doing the music composition. Yeah, for film scoring. Yeah, I want to do film scoring.
Okay. So Gwen.
I have no idea what she should ask, actually.
Oh, what should she say? Maybe a key word or a key thing, or what she should present herself as she really knows music production?
One thing
Go
I
ahead,
always
Laura.
say, if you're going to go into a job, going to a place to look for a job, don't say, I'll do anything. Like, be very specific what you want to do. Because I don't want to hire somebody who'll do anything. I want somebody who's going to do something very specific. So you have to do your homework and know what jobs they have there and what job might fit you and why. And I think that's very helpful to the people who are interviewing as well.
Good advice, Laura.
Thank you.
Danielle?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that somebody who's looking to fill a role is looking for the best possible person for that role. They're looking for somebody who's perfect, and so you do kind of have to get into the mind of that person and to think about what that role entails pretty deeply and prove that, you know, absolutely all of these things on the list, boom, 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 are not only skills that I have, but skills that I excel at and excel farther than others, and here's why. You know, I think a lot of people, myself included when I was looking for jobs, have the mindset of like, okay, well, I can do this and this, and I can't do that, but it's okay because I make up for it here. They don't care. They just want you to do all the things on the list and do it well, and so that's kind of, you really have to nail that and drive that home, because at the end of the day, they don't want to be interviewing, they want it over with, and they want to hire somebody perfect, and they want you to be perfect, and you just kind of have to present yourself as such.
Okay, thank you.
Be perfect.
Good advice. All right. Okay. All right. So, Hannah, does that answer?
Yes.
Are you good?
Yes.
Okay. Any more online questions, Brad? We have time for a few more questions, so come on up here, folks.
Here we go. Let me just sneak one more in here from Francisco, same student. Way to go, Francisco. Being someone who didn't have an introduction to the sound field until I went to the academy, so he's new to the world of sound design and audio. What advice would you give for the doubting moments, he says, times when I question whether or not I should keep pursuing this career?
Moments of doubt. Okay. Laura, I can see you contemplating that. So what would you say to Francisco?
Well, Francisco, I think everybody has moments of doubt, but you know, if you really like doing that actual work, then you shouldn't have any moments of doubt, because you'll enjoy doing it at any particular level of it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Dash those doubts away. Gwen, you were going to say something? You going to add to that? Moments of doubt?
It's completely normal to have them.
Yep. Correct. Correct.
So don't let that deter you. I also think you should allow yourself to change. Don't think that, oh no, I have to be a hip hop producer or something. You should allow yourself to see opportunities and try different paths. You might think, oh no, I have to be this thing, but in reality, you're gonna have a bunch more fun doing that thing. So be open to opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Okay, question here. Tell us your name and
Good
your
evening.
study.
My name is Jonathan, and I'm a student in music production, graduate.
year?
And
What year? Graduate, undergraduate?
graduate.
Graduate. Okay.
Graduate. I can easily imagine that working in an industry such as this one, you don't count the hours, so you must be doing a lot of overtime. And I'm wondering, how challenging do you find balancing work and family life?
Okay. How do you balance work and family life? Okay. Laura, because I think you said you have a child.
Yeah, I have 2 teenage daughters. Well, one of the things about the film industry, which makes it superior to all other industries, or most of them, is that we're highly unionized, and so our hours are regulated. We have a lot of overtime rules. We have a lot of penalties if the employer puts us into overtime. So we don't end up doing insane hours just because there's backstops in place to make that not happen. Music business isn't necessarily like that. Other industries aren't necessarily like that. So in the motion picture industry, it's a union gig. And that helps make your normal life a little more controlled, I would think. In terms of balancing it, if you have a family, you just need to have a good partner in your family who you can help balance it with.
Good point. Okay. Danielle, thoughts, balance?
Yeah, it's hard, and I don't have a family. I'm very single, and I have no kids, and all I have is me, and it's hard for me. But I like look at you guys, and I don't understand how you do it. But I think it's a matter of prioritizing what you need to, kind of get through the day and get through the week, and making hard decisions. And also, there's definitely a time. There's a time in your career where you can't really say no, or you can, but that will kind of put you back a little bit. But I think it's also important to keep your eye open for the time when you feel comfortable, like you have gone far enough, and you have paid your dues enough, and proven yourself enough to be able to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But yeah, it's hard. I don't think there's really a right way or a wrong way to do it. I think it just is a matter of staying sane and relying on, like Laura was saying, people in your life to help you out.
Yep, good point. I see.
Or coworkers to help you out.
Or coworkers. Yeah. And Bonnie, you're smiling through that. And you've got children.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still figuring it out. So I'm very single with 2 kids, so that brings its own challenges. But I have to keep myself in check a lot of the time and be like, you know what, maybe I should take a week off, and then I don't, and then I book something else. Because, there's a constant thing. It's like, I need money. I live in the Bay Area. It costs so much money. And it's a thing. It's a thing, and then you can just hope that it evens out one day, and that the time that I spend with my kids, it's just kids, but there's something to being able to talk to my kids about the fact that I do a job that I really love doing. And I mean, I loved that as a kid.
it's a thing I didn't see being an adult as being a grind and getting up every day and going to work, a job that you didn't love, and that was kind of aspirational. So there's part of me that's like, I hope at least I can give them that, you know, and be like, you know, you can find something that you love doing, and then even if you find that, yeah, you're doing it so much that you still enjoy it, and it's still, for me anyway, this job is like kind of like another human being in my life. It's something that's always been this like constant, and like whatever hellhole else is going on, it's like I got this job and I really love it, so that's good.
Great. Thanks, Bonnie. Tanvi, any advice? Balance?
Can I answer this question after 10 years? Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. 10 years later, we'll check in with you. Gwen, balance.
My kids are probably older than some of you in this room, but having a good partner or family support is really, or friends to help you out is really great. One nice thing about this job is it gives your kids a lot of street cred. I remember when my son was in 5th grade, I was working on episode 1. He was like the most popular kid in the playground. So it's not like it's a cool job. It's easy to talk about. You know, I would try and bring them autographs and stuff when I came back, just because when I went out of town and stuff. So, and it's true, if you love what you do and you love your work, they see that, and it rubs off on them too.
They always want spoilers. They're always after spoilers.
Okay,
My
there you
OCs
go,
are-
spoilers. All right, so does that help?
Yeah,
okay,
thank you very
great.
much. Very helpful.
So one more question coming up here. Come on up, come on down. Tell us your name and what do you...
Hello, my name is Dirk Epperson, and as you can tell from the hair color, I'm actually not a student, I'm a professor. And one of the courses that I teach is called MIDI orchestration, which is actually happening right now from 7 to 10 on Wednesdays, so I brought the whole class here. They're mostly women, which is perfect. MIDI orchestration is about trying to get the best, most realistic sound of an orchestra out of a computer. So the question is probably mostly to Danielle, but anybody else who wants to chime in. We know that when Steven Spielberg works with John Williams, yes, you hire the LA Philharmonic or something, and that's all live, real orchestra. How much are you seeing MIDI, either full MIDI scores or maybe MIDI mixed in with live music in mixes at Skywalker?
Danielle, to you.
It depends on the project. I think and Laura would also be a very good person to answer this, but the higher the budget, the less you see it. Mostly because, you know, there's still a big push for live orchestration, live recording on the scoring stage. So if your bigger composers, your John Powell's, your Hans Zimmer, actually I don't know, Hans Zimmer might.
Hans Zimmer uses a lot, I think.
He might make, he might mix it up, yeah. But you know, it depends. It's not as common as you would think for higher budget stuff. But I think the more mid-range projects, like I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's very common that when we first start working on the movie, that the composer supplies mock-ups or demos, and there's a lot of MIDI stuff in there, synth strings, synth whatever, and then when you get into the final, the score's been signed off on and the picture is sort of locked, and so they can actually go and record the score. They will record the full orchestra, but very often they'll pepper in some of those MIDI strings because they have a certain bite to them, a certain quality. So it depends on the style of the music, but it's not uncommon that those get folded in.
Great.
With percussion as well.
Oh, yeah, good. All right, thanks very much.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, yes, come on up.
My name is Wonji Lee. I'm studying composing and graduate student. First of all, so thank you for sharing the wisdom about the balancing, because exactly my question. Because I have a 9-month-old baby, so sometimes I'm so doubted. Can I keep moving forward this career really? So, but like you guys shares really good wisdom. So thank you so much. And then my question is, I know the sound work is a post-production, but have you ever been to visited the place where the film is shooting of your work? And then if so, did it impact on your sound work?
Did it influence your sound? So have you been to location of where the movie is shot, television is shot, and did it influence your sound? Laura.
Well, I actually just visited a set a couple weeks ago, and you know, when they're filming, it's the job of the sound recordist on the set is just to get the best dialogue recording that they can. So what I do see, or what I do notice when I'm on a set is what's going on besides what they're recording, just what that environment really is like, because you may not ever hear that through their particular dialogue recording channels. You know what I mean? So what the director's hearing on that day and what the actors are hearing on that day is not necessarily picked up on the microphones that are there just to get the dialogue. So that is helpful, but most of what we do is, you know, replace and repair what's there or what's not there. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else want to add? You good? Gwen, you want to add to that, please?
Whenever I've been to a set, it's always been on a day when they're doing some sort of amazing, crazy visual effects thing, so the production dialogue is completely unusable. So I was like, oh, look, I have to ADR that scene. Cool.
So there you go. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much.
Any other questions from the audience? Does Francisco have one last question before we wrap up here?
Francisco loves Led Zeppelin, so right on, Led Zeppelin.
You and I would get along, Francisco.
Francisco's last name is Arciniega, and he says, awesome, thank you, Tanvi. Saludos from a former classmate.
Oh,
there you go.
I'm bad with names. I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
Francisco.
Okay.
If I see your
Okay.
face, I'll remember you.
Okay, another instructor with a question, Mike Axon. Come on up, Mike.
So hi, thank you guys for coming. It's awesome. Just as re-recording mixers, can you explain a little bit the divide between being a dialogue mixer and an effects mixer, and which are you doing more of right now?
Who would like to take that first question? Laura.
I'll start. I've mixed everything, dialogue, music effects, Foley, everything. Currently, I'm mixing more dialogue and music, and usually when we mix, it's on a big movie there, it's a two-person team, so one person deals with the sound effects and one person deals with the dialogue and music. There's often, on a low-budget film, I'll do all three things. If it's a documentary, I do all three things. Did you have what was your specific question?
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And Danielle, want to take a stab at it?
Sure. So as I've said before, I'm still, transitioning to be a full-time mixer. But one thing that I've noticed is the industry, it seems like it's changing a little bit. And the real power players are like what Laura said, is they can do everything. So we're kind of moving away from the older school days of there's one person with one specialty and they're really good at it, and that's what they always do.
It makes you a better mixer too if you mix all the materials, because then you're thinking about how your part fits into the other things and not just about your part.
Okay. Bon, did you want to add anything?
It's similar. So when I work on TV, I'm responsible for everything. But then if I'm working on movies, because I cut sound effects, then I'll tend to mix sound effects also.
Okay. Gwen, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm not a mixer.
Okay. All right. All right. Everybody good? All right. So I get the last question, and it's to the students. Your best advice, you've met some of the students, they've listened to you, your best advice to them. We're going to go down the line, kind of like lightning round. Quick advice, Laura.
Start with Gwen.
Gwen.
Okay. Be audacious, be brave, be true.
Great. Thank you. Tanvi.
Be persistent. Don't say yes. Don't say no.
Okay. Oh, good one. Okay. Bonnie.
Yeah. So if you love it, you just stick at it. You just get in there.
Okay. Danielle.
Right now, you, sitting there, you can do so much more than you're giving yourself credit for. So go for the stuff that you can't even imagine getting, because it will happen. I moved to San Francisco from LA, quit my job, and didn't have a Skywalker job. And it was the only option. So it can work.
And I would say also, every single one of us here started out like you guys. We didn't come full blown into this career. We had to work our way through from the very beginning. So just know it's a long road, but if you enjoy it, you're gonna get there.
All right, to Laura Hirschberg, Danielle Dupree, Bonnie Wild, Tanvi Phadke, Gwendolyn Yates, Whittle.
Just say Gwen.
Round, loud, wild applause for our thank you, ladies. Thank you. Oh, standing ovation. Yes, I say they deserve it. All right, students.